Okay, right, so welcome back. So in this lesson we're going to be looking at variables and data types, okay? And this is something that's really important when working with programs, and something that will feature in the exam and in the coursework as well. Okay, so first of all we're going to explain a wee bit about what a variable is. So a variable is basically a storage location in our program. Okay, so it's almost like it's like if you've used a calculator and you've got the memory function, you can get a number that's on the screen, you can store it in the memory, and then you can recall it later at some point if you want to use it again. And that's essentially what a variable is. Okay. Now, what's stored in the variable, it could be a variety of different types of data, and also it's something that can change over the course of the program. And that's the reason it's called a variable, because it can vary. Okay. And this is basically a way of us keeping track of values that we might be using more than once in a program. So that could be a player score, it could be the name of a character in a game, it could be the cost of something in a program that calculates, that generates an invoice, for example. All these things could be stored as variables. Okay. Now, as you can see, I've got a Visual Basic project here already set up. I've already created my form, and I've got a few objects on the form already. So I've got some labels here, and I've got some text boxes, and I've given them all suitable names. Okay. Now, I just forgot I need to add a command button as well, so I'm just going to do that now. So command button, click and drag it in. Again, I'm going to give it another sensible name. Just call it command start again, and I'll just put this time we'll just call it start. Okay, and again we can go to, just do this quickly, go to the font there and bump that up to 23 so we can see it a wee bit better. Okay, so I'm going to double click on the button, right? Okay, just delete that there. Now I should have mentioned this last time. When you double click on the button, it generates a couple of lines of code, and basically these two lines, anything that happens, any instructions that go in between this line and this line will be executed when you click the button. So this first line here, basically private sub command start underscore click, that basically means when the command start button is clicked, it's a click event. When this happens, anything in this sub program will also happen as well. Okay, so that's the event, the trigger, and then anything within these two lines is going to resolve. Okay. Now, the other thing I'm going to show you today as well is I'm going to show you how to get some input from the user as well. Okay, and we're going to be looking at getting that to display, okay, as well. Okay, so we can show you a couple of ways of inputting data and also outputting data as well. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to show you is basically how we can store what's in these typed into these text boxes as a variable. Okay, and to do that we're going to be using something called we're going to be assigning the variable. Okay, assigning is basically just setting the value of the variable to something in the program. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing we've got here is name. Okay, now at this point we're going to talk about data types and declaring variables. In Visual Basic, it's generally good practice and a lot of the times required to actually let the program know, the environment know, what type of data you're going to be handling, what kind of data you're going to be expecting. Okay, and we do this by using dim. Okay, so dim is basically our way of saying, what variables we're going to be using and what data types are going to be. And there are 4 data types that you need to know for the National 5 course. The first one will be string. A string we've spoken about before in the first lesson is basically just a collection of characters. Okay, which is what a name would be. So we're going to say dim name string. Now I might not actually like this because I think name is basically it's already allocated to something in Visual Basic. So we're just going to change that to first name. Okay, and I'll just change that here as well actually, just to keep that nice and consistent. So again, caption, I'll change that to first name. Okay, 2 seconds, I'll just make that a wee bit bigger. Okay, so we go back to our code. So first name is string, right? So string, oh hang on, string here I'm just used for characters. In other words, numbers, letters and symbols. Okay. The next one we're going to talk about is a number type. Okay, there are two types of numbers that we need to know, and the first one that we're going to use is going to be one called integer. Alright, now you've maybe heard about this in maths, maybe it's something that you've covered. An integer is basically just a word for a whole number. Okay, so it's a number that it's not fractional, there's no decimal places, it's, you know, it's a whole rounded number. Okay, and a whole number. Right, okay, i.e. 1, 2, 3, etc. Okay, so any number there. Okay, and finally, new player. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a tricky one. We're actually going to use a data type called Boolean. Okay, so Boolean is basically it's a logic data type, and that is when we're usually when we're checking a condition. There are two values for Boolean: true and false. So it's basically, if you're asking someone a question, you know, and they can answer true or false, we would use a Boolean data type to store that. Okay, and it's generally used in programs to check conditions to see if they're true or false, and depending on what the result is, different things might happen. We'll be looking at that in a wee bit more detail when we start to look at constructs, okay, and how we can change our program flow. But at the moment, just be aware that it is a data type. So dim new player. So we can call this one new player actually as Boolean. Okay, and it's spelled B-O-O-L-E-A-N. Boolean. You see it's coming up there. Okay, and that's one of two values. And then I'll just put i.e. true or false. It's the main one. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there we go. We've set our variables. It's not actually storing anything in them, but now Visual Basic knows what to expect. Okay, right. Now that we've got the names of the variables, we're now going to store. So we're going to basically get it so that when we click the button, whatever is typed into the text boxes will be stored in the appropriate variable. Okay, and to do that, as I said, we're going to be assigning. Okay, so the first thing that we want to take in is the first name. Okay, so what we're going to say is the first name is equal to, we're going to set, in other words, we're going to set it to text first name dot text. Okay, so that's basically the text property of the text box called text box first name. Whatever's typed into that will be now stored as first name. We're then going to do the same for score, but it's going to be text score dot text, and finally we're going to have new player, so new player equals text new player dot text. Okay, so just going to try that now. Just run the program, make sure that all works. So first name we'll just say will be John. He has a score of 50 and he's a new player, so we're going to put true. Start. Alright, okay, we have a problem. Text first name dot text. Right, okay, did I not change the name of that text box? No, I didn't. Okay, silly me. Okay, so now I've changed that to first name. Let's try that again. So again, we've got John. No, it's maybe quite hard to read that. True. There you go. Okay, that's fine. So we can see nothing happens at the moment, but it looks like that is taking that in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to display those. Okay, so we're actually going to use a different means of displaying. We're not going to be using an object within the form. We're going to be using something called a message box. Okay, and message box. Okay, so how we use a message box is very simple. We just type in MSG box, and then we have brackets. In the brackets we put what we want it to display. So we want it to display first name. We want a message box that will display score, and we want another message box that will display the value of new player. Okay, and it's going to do this in that order. So it should display what's been typed in here, then the score, and then the new player. So let's try that now. Okay, so again, first name, we'll just put John again, 50, new player true, click start, comes up here, so a message box, so you see it pops up. We've got John, 50 points, true. Brilliant, okay, right, and you can see that's displayed that, no problem. Now, at this point, I'm going to show you another thing that we need to know, and that's concatenation, right? Which sounds like quite a scary word, but really, all it means is basically when we put phrases together in our programs, okay? Say, for example, we wanted one message box to come up with everything, okay? You think we would just put first name, score, new player, try that there. Doesn't like it, okay? We could try adding them, which might actually work. So, yep. So say John 50 true. It's giving us a mismatch error. So what it's doing is it's trying to add the variables. It's trying to add our John and our 50 and our true, but it's giving us a mismatch. And what that means is, it's basically it's got two. It's trying to add two different data types, and you can't do that, right? Because 50 is being treated as an integer, whereas these are strings and boolean. Okay, so we're going to close that now. What we need to do is we need to use an AND symbol for concatenation. Okay, right, and what that does is it basically converts it to a string, and then we'll place things side by side. So we're going to try that now. Okay, so again, John 50. We'll try false this time. Okay, start. And you can see here it's now actually giving us one message box that displays all three bits of information. We've got John, 50 and false. Now, we can also add phrases in as well. So, for example, we can use our inverted commas because it's a string. Say, my name is, and then an and, first name, and then another and my score is, and score, and I am a new player. Oh, that's gone off the screen here. A new player. Just drag this over. New player and new player. Okay, so what we should say is my name is, and first name, so it'll be John, and my score is, and 50, and then it'll come up with our phrase, am I a new player, and true or false. Let's try that now. Okay, so again, this data, let's try, and you can see here now it comes up, my name is John, and my score is 50, am I a new player, false. Okay, and what it's done is it's added these phrases together and displayed them as one big giant string. Okay. Right, so there you go. So we've learned, now just to break it down again, we've cleared our variables. We are then basically taking what's been typed into our objects and storing it, and then later on we're recalling that to display that in a message box. Okay. So there we've got a couple of ways of, well, one way of taking it in and one way of displaying it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple more things before the end of this lesson. I'm going to show you about another number type. Okay. Now say for example a score wasn't a whole number. Okay. I know it sounds quite odd, but maybe playing a game where we can get half a point. Okay. So I'll go for a different name. We'll go for Emma now. Okay. Emma's score was 10.5, and she was a new player. Yes, she was. Okay, so she could have done a bit better. 10.5 is okay. Right, we're going to click start. Now you'll see here's my name is Emma and my score is 10. Am I a new player? True. Well, we've typed in 10.5, so why is it displayed 10? Well, the answer is because we have declared it as an integer. So it's only going to store the whole number part, because that's all it's expecting to store. So in other words, if we want to have a number, or display a number, or use it for a calculation that has a decimal place in it, or as a fractional number, we need to use a different data type. And the data type that we need to use is called real. Okay. Now in Visual Basic, it's a slightly different term. It's called a single. Okay. So we're going to say we're going to declare our score as a single. Okay, and that's going to be a real number with a decimal point, stroke fraction. Okay, and then i.e. the example we're going to give is 10.5. Okay, 10.5. You could have 30.7. You know, 14.3, etc. Okay, these are all could be considered real numbers. Okay, so we're going to run that again. Again, we've got Emma. Score is 10.5, and new player. Yep, she was. And you'll see now that we have 10.5. Okay, so it's done that. So it's taken that into account because we've declared it as an appropriate data type to store that. Okay. Right, brilliant. Okay, finally, I know this is quite a long lesson. Finally, what I want to do is I want to show you another way of taking in a value. Okay, so we've been using, in this case, we've been using a text box. We've been storing it in a variable and then recalling it later. We don't actually need to use an object to get information from the user. We can actually use something. Well, it is an object, but not one that's drawn in the form. We can use a container called an input box. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm going to change it just for the first name, and we're going to put input box. Okay, so it's like almost the kind of the opposite of our message box. Instead of displaying a message, it's going to ask us to enter something, and then it's going to store that. Okay, so it's like an input as opposed to an output. Okay, so input is getting something in, output is giving something back out. You know, so it's displaying something to the user, for example. So the input box, right? So we have set of brackets, and then within that we have the message that we want to display on the input box, so instructing the user you know, as to what they have to type in. So in this case we're going to put in what is your name, question mark, and again we're treating it a collection of characters, so we use our inverted commas for a string. You click OK, and it's going to come up what is your name. So we'll just put this time we'll put, I don't know, Fiona. Okay, now we've got a mismatch. Let's have a wee look. Ah, right, okay, yes, because I forgot to enter the rest. Sorry, that was my bad. So let's try that again. Sorry. So I need to enter score. So I'm gonna have 100 and not a few. So Fiona's definitely not a new player because she's got a really good score. Okay, so I'm gonna click start. As you see, it's came up with input box. We're gonna type in Fiona, and it says my name is Fiona, my score's 100, and my new player false. So you can see this time, instead of taking the value of the text property in the text box, which in this case is blank, it's actually taking it from the input box. Okay, so that's another way that we can you know, receive information from the user. And also what we can do is we could use the text box to display the final message. Okay, so again we're going to use a text box instead of a message box to display the final message. Okay, so in this case we're just going to use the last text box. Okay, so it's going to overwrite what is already there. So we've got text, right, new player dot text equals my name is. Okay, we don't need the brackets for this. Okay, so now we're using a combination of all. So I'm going to leave the score as 100. We'll just keep, you know, just use Fiona's score again. Okay, so I'm going to click start. It's going to ask me for the name. I type in Emma, and then what it's going to do is it's going to take the score in. It's going to take the new player in, and then it's going to display everything in, excuse me, the text box for new player. Okay, and you can see there we don't have a message box now. It's now displaying that in the object. So you can use either the object on the form for input or for output, or you could use a message box for output and an input box for input. Okay, so there are a couple of options, and depending on what your program's doing, one option might be more suitable than another. Okay, and that really concludes our second lesson in Visual Basic. The last thing I'm going to show you, just very quickly, is actually how to save your project, which I completely forgot to do in the last one. So which is obviously very important. So to do that, it's quite simple. We go up to the top left here, we click File, we click Save Project As. Okay. Now the thing about Visual Basic is, or at least Visual Basic 6, it requires two files in order for your program, for you to basically to store your programs. It requires a project file and a form file. Okay, and you need to save both for your program to work. So when you go to Save Project, it will ask you initially to save the project, and then it's going to ask you to save the form. Okay, so we're just going to call this one lesson 2 and variables and data types. Okay, so that's me saving the form, and then it's going to ask me to save the project. So it does the form first, even though we select the project, it does the form first. Okay, and that's why it's prompting us again. And data types. Okay, there we go, and you can see that's saved. I can close that down now, and we're good to go. Okay, so again, I hope that's been helpful. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at some structures now. Okay, so again, when I said we can actually get a program to branch and do different things, we're going to be looking at that. Okay, and hopefully that will help. So thanks again, folks. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.